Welcome to the Half Man podcast. My name is Fowobi. Before we continue, show your love, show your support. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Apple, Spotify. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. And we will appreciate your love and your support. Thank you so much. Today, let's talk about legal rights and protections for immigrants. First, let's talk about the significance of understanding legal rights and protections. What does it mean to, what does it mean to have legal rights? These are the rules and regulations that I, set into motion by the federal government, the state government, and the general, the general populations in together. Let's just say, the power that be. So, that's the legal rights and everything in law that, okay, these are the things you can do. These are the things you cannot do. So my advice is this: before you go into any country, a first world country, third world, or, second world, you need to take the time to know the rules and the regulations of that country and how to protect yourself. One of the mistakes we make as human beings coming from a third world country, when we get into a first world country, we think we have to talk to the police officers. We think we have to talk to people in uniform, especially when they come with their authority and they ask you certain things like, "Oh, are you do you have a paperwork to show you're allowed to be in the country?" Like, you think you can, you think you have to talk to them. You don't have to talk to any of them. Any one of them, though. Like, I am a firm believer of ask for a lawyer. You get my point? You need to know these things, though. And one of the challenges immigrants may face in navigating legal system is, you're not curious enough. And you have to be curious, though. So my advice is, before you get into that country, you need to take the time to study the laws of that country. And, I would suggest you take the time to read about the livelihood of immigrants in that country. Like, is it easy for them to get employment authorization paperwork? Is it easy for them to get a permanent resident? Before you get into that country, though, you need to learn, follow the statistics, follow the state government, the news, the updated news, though. Follow it. You need to know all these things well. So that way you don't get into the country and then you start experiencing bully. Like, take for example, a long time ago when I was living in Texas, I used to hear something that it's possible for the police officers to stop you and ask for your green card. And if they ask for your green card, obviously, we are Americans, but, then we have some friends that, okay, they don't have paperwork, they drive around, they have cars, they have everything, but the paperwork is in the name of another person. So, but, they still drive around to do their deeds. And then we heard that it's possible for the police officers to ask you questions like, "Where's your driver's license?" If you say you don't have a driver's license, immediately they ask you for your green card. You get me? And it's possible for them to call immigration officers. The first thing you should ask for is, "I have the right to a lawyer. Can I get access to call my lawyer?" You get me? So that means your right. But if you keep quiet, and majority of the time, coming from a third world country, you think you have to beg them and they will understand you. These guys are not your friends. The police officers, those guys in uniform, they are not your friends, especially in that foreign land. They are not your friends, and you don't have to treat them like your friends. Be nice to them though, but stand on you understanding your what is that English word? You understanding your legal rights. You get me? And one of the importance of awareness and empowerment through knowledge is when you speak into anyone in power, either it's the immigration officer, the homeland security, police officers, military guys, I want you to start speaking with authority. Just because you don't have status or you are out of status in that country, that doesn't make you less of a human being. As long as you are not constituting nuisance, you're not participating in violence or crime. Every human being is trying to survive. If you're there, do not allow nobody to bully you. You don't have to argue with them, but let them know you have a lawyer and you would like to speak to your lawyer. This is one of the reasons why I encourage you guys, from previous podcasts, that when you get into that country, one of the first things you want to do is to attach yourself to organizations that support immigrants. I want you to attach yourself to a lawyer that understands the rules and the regulations for immigrants in that country. Because in this country, in all these foreign lands, if you don't understand the power of awareness and empowerment and taking the time to acquire knowledge, for legal rights and protection for immigrants, you will be bullied unnecessarily. They will bully you. As a matter of fact, though, you will become isolated over nonsense because you are afraid they might deport you. No one is going to deport you. No one is going to come for your head if you don't participate in crime. I'm telling you the truth. Now, let's move on to overview of immigration laws. The immigration laws, first up, let's talk a broad overview of immigration laws in whatever country you are in. There are levels to this, my good friends. And the level go, okay, I think before I say that, let me talk about the different categories of immigration status, before we go into the broad overview. Let's talk about the different categories of immigration status, from refugee, asylum seeker, permanent resident. Either you came in with a visiting visa, you came in with a student visa, F1, you get me? Like, they all have, these are categories. You get my point? Like, these are main categories though. But then, under the law, when you say you want to come into that country for a visiting, they expect you to leave that country at the end of your visit. But, obviously, everyone have their strategy to get into that country of their choice. You get me? Like, if you don't have access to, let's say, a visa lottery, or let's say refugee or asylum seeker, or let's say you just don't have a green card, it's possible for you to get in with a visiting visa and stay back. You get me? You're breaking the laws though, but these are levels that you can use to get into it, and these are different categories though, and there are some of them that gives you the opportunity to change your status as you go. You get me? Now, the broad overview of immigration laws is this. Take for example, let's say you come in as a refugee. A refugee there is chaos in your country. There is problem, there is war, there is something going on in your home country, and you need refuge in that country. And they approved, that, okay, your country is not safe enough for you. You get me? Like, there is war going on in your country. So they allow you to stay in that country and you can grow from that level. Like, let's say, from a refugee status, you get onto a green card and a citizenship. Now, asylum seeker there is no war in your country though, but your life is in danger in your country. Like, let's say you participated in government activities or something, and there is, your life is in danger. So, you're looking for asylum. Like, you want that first world country or whatever country you're trying to get into, you want them to protect you and shield you from, your enemies in your home country. Now, the permanent resident, there are ways to get a permanent resident. Either a visa lottery, either a family member of yours or a spouse filed for you, and then you get a permanent resident, or a visa lottery, or you join the military. That was a time like that, back in the day, like 2012, 2013. That was a program that the US military used to recruit immigrants to join, their military. They called it the Malvin program. You guys should look into it though. It was available until 2016 and early 2017. So another way Another way to get a permanent resident is either you get married to an American citizen, and another way to get it is through STEM program. If you're in status and you go to school in the United States, you can apply through USCIS, their website though, and but you need the help of a lawyer. Or if you're in status, you can start a business and file for yourself. Would you believe this? So, but now let's talk about the recent changes and updates in immigration policies. Since okay, don't let me focus on the United States. Let's just talk about this immigration thing in general. It depends on who is in power. Like, let's say the government or the state of mind of the people of that country, because there are some European countries that just don't want foreigners in their country. You get me? Like, you can come in and work and work for them a little bit, but they won't allow you to become a citizen. Like Dubai, for example. I don't think UAE will allow you though. They can allow you to come in and be a business, do whatever you want, but not become a citizen of their country. So, there is always changes and updates in immigration policies. And, if you want to have a good life in that country, you need to know these rules. But, majority of the time though, with life, hustling, trying to balance yourself, it might be hard for you to know all these things. So my suggestion to you would be to make friends with a lawyer, or make friends with organizations that support immigrants. Now let's talk about basic rights of immigrants. The fundamental rights that all immigrants have, regardless of their status, is this: no one can abuse you. You get what I'm saying? Like, no one can. Regardless of your status, though, no one can abuse you. And once you start upon, now it depends on the country, though. Most Islamic country that have their own rules, like let's say they use a Sharia law, bro, they don't care about your rules, though. You get me? Like, and there are some European countries that don't really care about. Come on now, like, they just don't care. But aside from that, the most first world countries like the United States, like Great Britain, the United Kingdom, Canada, for example, they will respect your legal rights. Even China, for example, China, most Asian countries though, they don't care about fundamental rights. And I would suggest, I won't recommend you guys go there, and that's the reason why you have to do your research about these countries before you even decide moving into that place. Just because it's easy to go into those countries doesn't mean you have to go. Like, which simply means that don't just take yourself to a place where you will suffer. You get me? Like, so, and one of the fundamental rights that I was talking about is freedom of speech, protection from discrimination, and the right to legal presentation. If you go to all these Asian countries though, like China, Japan, for example, bro, they won't give you rights to legal representation. Like, take for example, when you say I have the legal rights to speak to my lawyer, they won't give it to you, man. Like, most of all those countries, like all these Arabian countries, bro, guy, you don't have legal rights in those countries, man. Like, you have to. And it depends though. Even in the United States, it depends on what you do. Like, let's say they arrested you for some heavy crime, bro, you have lost your legal rights, man. So you have to be very, very careful in all these countries though. Now let's distinguish between the rights of documented and undocumented immigrants. As far as I'm concerned though, it is the same. They are both the same. But there are certain things that, people, documented immigrants, like I'm talking about people that have employment authorization paperwork, and people that have permanent residence, and people that are out of status. Like, take for example, they came into that country legally, but they could not, there's no paperwork for them to move further and to do certain things. And one of the things that separates these two immigrants, if you're in status, you can travel to all parts of the country. All you just have to do is present your paperwork to the immigration officer and you go through. But if you are out of status, you can still travel with your country's passport. You get me? But there are certain states you can't go to, like California, for example, Florida, bro, Texas, bro. You better be careful going to those places, man. You get me? Like, you literally have to be extremely careful. There are some extremist states you want to avoid, man. You get me? Like, avoid those places. And if you're out of status, it's very hard for you to open a new bank account. Very, very hard though. So you have to be extremely careful, about where you move to and where you don't move to. You get me? Like, you can't just go to a nightclub and just present your country's international passport. They will allow you in though, but people will view you differently. Like, I think this dude is out of status. So you have to be extremely careful though. And another advice I will give to you is, if you're out of status and you want to stay low key, where no one, including your friends, will know you're out of status, is this: you don't tell them. Don't tell them. Keep that secret to yourself though. The only person you work with is your lawyer and close family members though. People that that will protect you. Because in these foreign lands, man, bro, no one is your friend, man. No one is your friend. So let's talk about access to legal representation. The importance of having legal representation in immigration matters is this: your lawyer knows the rules and regulations. They know your legal rights though. You don't. You think you do. And that's the reason why I started today's podcast with, just because they are police officers and they speak with authority, that doesn't mean you have to talk to them. If they ask you certain questions like, when did you get into this country? If you don't have a lawyer with you, you better don't say anything. Because in all these foreign countries, anything you say can be used against you in the court of law. Don't say anything to them. You get me? The only thing you should say is, I want to talk to my lawyer. Some of them will abuse you and slap you and still do all that. Don't say anything to them. Some will threaten you and say they will deport you. Bro, you better don't say anything, because either you say something or you don't say anything, whatever will happen will still happen. So just shut up. Now, let's see. I mentioned earlier about the benefits of you knowing your rights. You need to, before you even get into that country though, I want you to take the time to know if that country embrace immigrants. Because there are some countries out there that do not value immigrants for nothing. As a matter of fact though, they believe immigrants are disposable. You don't want to go in such countries though. But most times, the visas to get into those countries, they are very easy to come by. So, know your rights, my good friend. Know your rights on what to do if confronted by law enforcement or immigration officers though. Tell them, I want to speak to my lawyer. Some of them will ask, I just want to see your paperwork. Do you have a paperwork to be here? If you know you don't have one, or you have one, but it's still in process, you better tell them you want to speak to your lawyer. Learn not to say anything. Because in these foreign lands, anything you say can be used against you in the court of law. They will use it against you. Like, they are not your friends. As a matter of fact, majority of them they don't value you for nothing. So, watch out, my friends. So, let's talk about how you handle workplace situations, interactions with authorities, and encounters with discrimination. Like, take for example, let's say your place of work are the ones that filed for you to get a green card. Which they spell, to get a permanent resident. And it costs a lot of money. It costs around $6,000. And I'm talking about the 2 years green card. And the 10 years green card, though, it probably cost them another $15,000. And then there's the citizenship. So sometimes your co-workers know that, okay, you can't just up and go and say, okay, I don't want to work here no more. I'm going to leave. You guys are being discriminated. You get me? There are rules and regulations in place that you can use against them. Now, I'm talking about the United States, for example. In other parts of the country, you can use this to your advantage. And this is where you use your lawyer. You report them to your lawyer, and your lawyer is going to file on your behalf to the federal government or the Homeland Security that you are being abused at work. So that way you can still get your citizenship. That way you can still get So that way you can still get your citizenship. You can still get your paperwork without their help. So if anybody abuse you at your place of work, I want you to record it. You record it either voice or you record it either video, and you give it to your lawyer to do the job, to complete the work for you. Don't let anybody abuse you, especially in a first world country. Like, are they mad? Don't let anybody, either the HR department, the boss of the company, no. You guys have, they under no under the law, they have to be professional with you always. As a matter of fact, though, even if, like, let's say you have employment authorization and somebody tried to bully you, leverage that, though. You leverage it all the way up. You leverage it. You get your paperwork. You convert it into permanent resident. So let's talk about challenges and barriers. One of the common challenges and barriers immigrants face in accessing legal protection is, majority of the time, though, when you don't know your rights, you feel helpless. You get me? You think if you stand up for yourself, you think you will lose the privilege they gave to you to be in their country. And that's a common challenge. You think, okay, let me just humble myself. You get me? Like, don't let me say anything. I think these guys can crush me. They can't. I'm telling you this with all authority. They can't. As a matter of fact, though, they can only try to bully you. You get me? They can only try to bully you. And this is one of the reasons why I said, the moment you get into that country, you want to attach yourself to organizations that support immigrants. You want to attach yourself to a lawyer that knows more about legal rights. You get me? And law enforcement and immigration laws. You want to attach yourself to these people. Either you pay them a token, I'm talking about the lawyer, but these organizations, I don't think you have to pay them anything. As long as you can do this, I'm pretty sure all will be well with you. Now, another issue I see most immigrants experience is language barrier. You get me? Like, language barrier and fear of reporting rights violations and misinformation. Take for example, let's say somebody comes from Mexico into the United States. In Mexico, they don't speak English. You come to the United States, they speak English though. Some people, even when they are bullied and being abused, they don't see anything because they are afraid of reporting, reporting all these citizens to their government. Maybe they will be in trouble, and then maybe a brighter light will be shed upon the whole situation. Like, okay, how did you get into this country in the first place? And they will say, oh, okay, you came in with a visiting visa. Oh my God, deport him. It doesn't work like that, though. It doesn't work like that. So know your rights, though, and if anything happens, you need a lawyer, someone you can report situations to back to back. Okay, I'm experiencing so thing. What do you think we can do? You get me? So let's talk about changes in immigration policies. and recent or proposed changes in immigration policies and their potential impact. Like the United States, for example, there was a time, I think it was 1982, when there was this immigration reform that gave all immigrants that has been in the country for, I think they said 3 years or 5 years, I don't know, and they gave them citizenship immediately. I think 2022, people have been going back and forth saying they want immigration reform. And 1982 to now is like 42 years. So like there are so many organizations that are fighting for changes in immigration reforms. Not just the United States though. I think it's all around the world, from Canada, United States, United Kingdom, and people want these immigration reforms. So my advice to you is make friends with lawyers, make friends with organizations, let them update you on what is going on. So one of the best ways you can stay informed in the United States, for example, to this immigration news is to use a website called USCIS, and or you just type immigration reforms 2024 or 2023 or immigration news. You get me? Like this, these are ways you need to understand how this thing goes. So let's see. Let's round this up. Everything I've been talking all through though is you understanding your rights, and you understand that the world is moving away from that angle of keep quiet when you're being abused. And abuse, there are many levels to abuse. There is the psychological abuse, there is the verbal abuse, and there is the physical abuse. You get me? Like, and it depends on where you come from. If you come from a country where it's okay, like, when people say certain things to you, you should just take it in like fun. When you come into all these first world countries, you understand what abuse truly is. And if you are afraid to stand up for yourself, this is where those organizations you attach yourself to come in. They are designed to stand up for you. They are designed to protect you. Your lawyer is there to support you. Your lawyer is there to guide you. Use them to your advantage. In whatever situation you are experiencing right now, my good friends, somebody somewhere across time experienced that same thing you're going through right now, and they survived it. As a matter of fact, they made it work for them. They became successful. They became productive citizens of that country. Like, take for example, would you believe Arnold Schwarzenegger? He came from, I think, Australia or something. He became a governor of California, right here in the United States. An immigrant. And there are so many immigrants like that who came. In one of his stories, he said he was sleeping at the gym. He said he used to hustle. You get what I'm saying? Like, working at the gym. Like, just imagine stories like that. And then he became the governor of a state. Became a multi-millionaire. Like, there is nothing new under the sun, my good friends. Whatever you're experiencing, keep your head up always. Be positive. You will survive this. Take it from me. You will survive this. You get me? Show your love, show your support. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And, follow us on all social media across the board. TikTok, Instagram. You can get this podcast off of Apple and Spotify. You can get it on YouTube. And thank you for your love and your support. Continue to be well, my friends. Keep your head up.